what you need to understand about advertising for getting you clients. Now, clearly every business, especially every new business, needs visibility. We do need to do marketing, we do need to do advertising if we want to get clients and if we want to continually get clients and grow and scale our business. So I'm going to talk about what you really need to understand about advertising, and particularly depending upon where you're at in your journey. Because if you're like most of us, you're struggling to get clients, or you've been struggling to get clients, and when that happens, we tend to get a little bit anxious, a little bit nervous, and we start grasping for things. We start looking for silver bullets. We start looking for things that are going to get us results quickly. Okay, so it's understandable that when that happens, advertising is one of the first things we think of. Okay, so obviously the holy grail really for any kind of therapist, for most kind of businesses, is that we get all of our work through referrals or through our network. Now obviously referrals is great, it doesn't cost us anything, these are really high quality, they come with a lot of trust. But clearly when you're starting off, if you haven't got that many clients, you haven't done that much work, you're not going to get that many referrals. And actually the reality is, even when you're established, you will get a lot of work through referrals, but it's going to be lumpy. You'll get a time when somebody will recommend all their family, all their relatives, all their friends, and then you'll get that kind of wave effect. So you can't just rely upon referrals, even when you are well established. Networks can be really, really powerful. Okay, so I know some of you get a lot of work from your personal networks, but also there's a real big trap in this. And so I would say your likelihood of getting success from getting people from your networks, from people you've known for a long time, will actually depend upon what people know you for. Okay, so for me, for example, when I first started, I'd worked in the corporate world. And I was known for certain things. People who knew me had a perception of me, of what I did, of what I was, renowned for, what they saw me as. And while I had lots of good relationships, lots of trusted relationships, people didn't know me for being a hypnotherapist. Therefore, I was reaching out to people who I felt I could help or had this amazing thing to offer. But actually, what I didn't understand at the time was those people didn't see me doing what I do now. And that introduces fear, discomfort, lack of confidence that I could actually help them with things. And of course there's that thing about when people know you well, do they want to share their most deepest secrets, to do something as personal, as intimate as doing therapy, particularly any kind of hypnotherapy. So what I'd say is, if you are already working as a therapist, if you're doing counselling, if you're a doctor, if you're doing something where people just see that as a natural progression, they see it as an additional skill, an additional bow in your arrow, in your bag of arrows, then that network is very powerful. If people see you for doing something different, that is probably not going to be anywhere near as effective as you think it will be. The other thing that, of course, is a kind of a holy grail thing to have is a really good email list. A really good email list with hundreds, thousands of people on it who know you, trust you, who you've got a relationship with, you either work with them or they are seriously interested in working with you. But again, that's the thing that when you're starting up, you're not going to have. You're not going to have that email list of people who you know are likely to open it, who are likely to be interested, likely to be engaged. And whatever you do, don't go buying an external email list, okay? Just don't do it. I can explain elsewhere if you want to talk to me about that, but really, just don't buy in a list. It's counterproductive, okay? So, let's talk about adverts then. So, as I said before, many of you might think about going to adverts because you're struggling to get clients, and obviously one of the big advantages of using adverts, Google ads, Facebook ads, is time. It is time. You can literally run an advert, maybe wait for it to be approved, which actually can be challenging in its own right, particularly with Facebook. But yeah, typically speaking, you're going to put that advert up. It's going to be up within a day. People are going to start seeing it. You're going to start getting impressions. You're going to start getting hits on that. You're going to start seeing that people are seeing you, seeing what they're seeing your advert. So speed from adverts, that is a really powerful, it's a really compelling, really enticing thing when we're struggling to get clients. The second thing that is really powerful about adverts, and this is something that's really improved a lot in the last couple of years, is that whereas a few years ago it was a bit of a random thing, I'm not talking about newspapers, but even with Google and Facebook, it was a bit of a random thing. But now Google, Facebook have fantastic understanding of your clients. They have lots of data. They can identify the kind of people who are likely to be interested in what you do and be pretty accurate about it. And also, again, unlike a few years ago, you don't need to give them too much information. You don't need to tell them exactly what they should be searching for. You need to give them much less information now, and Google and Facebook will work out quite quickly the sort of people who you are trying to target. So it is very, very targeted. And the other thing, of course, is you do get those data insights, you get those analytics, quickly. You can see, and it's a bit like a dopamine rush, you can see that you've put this advert out and straight away you're getting people, you're getting impressions, it's being seen, you're getting engagements, and maybe it will turn through into hits on your website, maybe it will turn through into requests for calls, into clients, hopefully. Okay, so those are really, really powerful things, really, really powerful things. But here's the downsides, okay? So the good sides, it's rapid, it's targeted, and you can see what results you are getting. The downside with advertising is it's temporary. Yeah? And so in lots of ways, while things have moved on from advertising in the paper, in some ways really, actually, it hasn't. It's just a digital format, a digital, much more highly targeted format of a newspaper, okay? So when you put your advert up, you're paying for it daily, weekly, monthly. As soon as you stop paying, that advert has gone, okay? That spend is sunk, it's gone, you're not getting it back. So that's really important to understand. This is consumable spending. You're spending it and it's gone. It is not building anything beyond that. The second thing is advertising is nowhere near as trusted as organic search, as finding people, as getting people put in front of you by Google on an organic search, okay? So if you think about when you search for something, what you'll typically get coming up at the top is adverts, sponsored links, adverts. Now, I don't know about you, but I know what I do, and I know the research says that what most people do is they go straight past those and they look to the next part down below, which is about who's coming top of the search rankings, okay? Now, obviously, if you're at the top of the search rankings and you've got an advert there as well, that's actually pretty good, because that shows that Google takes you seriously, as well as you having that advert that's getting there. But for most people, they're going to go and search for something. Your advert will there, they'll sort of see it, but people aren't looking for adverts, because when people are looking, people don't want to be sold to. They want to buy the thing that they want, and they want to know they're getting something that is trusted, that is reliable, that is highly rated. If they see an advert, people know that's a promotion, that's placed, that's inflated. And then if you're not on that page 1, that page 2, that most on the Google search that comes up, your advert really is not going to be trusted. It's going to have very low impact. And the third issue, of course, with adverts is it is relatively expensive. Now, don't get me wrong, every business needs to have a marketing budget, and a part of that budget should definitely be for adverts. But the problem is, especially when you're relatively new, you are going to find that your adverts will cost you a lot of money. They will cost you a lot of money, and as a typical hypnotherapist, unless you are charging unless you've got a high value or high ticket product package offering that you sell to people, it is likely that your cost per click, your cost per engagement really isn't actually not going to pay for itself. You're going to spend more on advertising than the revenue that you're going to get in. And I say that's particularly true when you are new, because a bit like the client who's looking for something, the Google is also looking for the same thing. So when you place an advert, it goes away and it looks at your business, it looks at you, it looks at your therapy business, and it says, how much trust do I have in this business? How much trust do I have in this business? Is this business high value? Is it something that I look at and go, that is definitely something I should be putting at the top of the list? Because remember, Google wants people to keep coming back to Google, okay? Google wants to give people a good experience, okay? And ultimately it's an advertising business. They'll take your money to place your advert, but they will place a premium on it if you do not rank highly organically, okay? So because it's trying to place you somewhere beyond where it thinks you should be. So that's going to cost you. And you might have heard about things like cost per click, but what you really need to understand is that cost per click varies according to how seriously Google takes you. Okay, so that's what you really need to understand about advertising. And like I know many of you will have tried advertising and you'll have found, it gets you that dopamine hit, seeing you're getting some traction, but then you find actually that it's not coming through in terms of calls, it's not coming through in terms of revenue, or what you do get actually just doesn't make economic sense. So here's the reality check I want to give you: is you need to have a marketing budget, but you need to think about where you spend your money. You can spend it on that quick hit, which feels good, but will probably ultimately disappoint you and frustrate you, and get you back to wondering what you need to do next. Or you can invest your marketing budget in something more sustainable, okay? You can have advertising in that, but remember, your advertising is going to be expensive until Google takes you seriously. So think about how you spend your marketing dollar. If you have a budget, what is the best way you can spend that to make this a sustainable business that's going to get you clients over the long run? And again, this is a point you really need to understand, and I suggest write it down, put it on your board, whatever. But getting clients is a process. It is a process, and you cannot shortcut that process. If you try and shortcut that process, for example, by spending loads of money on adverts when you don't have all the other parts of the process of an effective marketing system in place, you're just going to effectively be burning that marketing budget for no return, and there's going to be nothing left at the end of it. You won't have any more credibility with Google. And so again, just think of it like this: if Google doesn't trust you, if it wants to charge you a lot for an advert, your clients aren't going to trust you either. Okay, sorry, that sounds kind of harsh, but think about it again. Google is a very clever algorithm. It's based upon how people think. It's based upon understanding human behavior, and that's why until you are seen credibly by Google in its algorithm, advertising is going to be expensive and likely ineffective for you. So, and again, thinking about it like this: what is Google looking for? Google, when it's looking at you, whether that's for the cost per click, what it's going to charge you, or whether it's looking for how it's going to rank you in its algorithm for search, it's looking for your content. It's going, does this person have good quality, relevant, engaging content? Does what this person has on their, or this business has on its website, is it relevant to the subject? Is it relevant to the thing that people are searching for? Or is it a bit incongruent or a bit confused? It's looking for congruency. Does this make sense, or is there something a bit strange about this website that's going to put me off? Just like a client will be put off when they go to your website or they speak to you and something doesn't quite feel right. It's looking for performance. Is your website responsive? Because Google isn't going to promote your website if it doesn't hit high performance, if it doesn't load quickly, if the videos slow it down. So all those tech things are actually quite important. It's looking for security. Is your website secure? It's looking for how people engage with your website. Do they stay on there long? Do they leave quickly? Do they flow through things? Just looking for all of those things, and that's just what a client effectively does. So think about this as well. So what I see with a lot of people, and it's really understandable because we've got all this overwhelm, frankly, the schools who are teaching us how to be therapists, how to be RTT therapists, hypnotherapists, don't actually understand because they haven't been there in building a business in the last few years in this digital, global, connected world. They haven't been there. They're trying to apply things that worked for them many years ago, or they are trying to tell us that how they built their therapy training school is relevant to what we do, all the wider generic kind of marketing applies. And it doesn't. People buy our kind of services because they trust us, they potentially like us, they feel comfortable with us, and that's very different to lots of other forms of marketing. So this is a very specific business to market, and not many people understand this. So you can't short circuit the process. And what I see with a lot of therapists is people will do parts of the system, parts of the process, the bits maybe that are exciting, or the bits that are a quick win, or the bits quite often that someone's come to them and gone, hey, I can get you 20 leads in a week, or hey, I can do this for you. All these kind of silver bullet, sounds great, too good to be true, they usually are things. So for example, I see a lot of therapists who have really nice websites, really nicely designed, colours are good, looks nice, looks and feels really, really nice. That's quite a common thing. The site looks really nice. The other thing I see is people will spend a lot of money maybe on advertising to get themselves up there. But let me sort of make an analogy with this. So if you think about it, maybe you have been walking down the street in a high street, in a shopping mall, and you've seen a shop, and you look at that shop, and the window is beautiful. It looks really enticing, really well laid out. They've gone to a lot of trouble with it. And then you open the door and you go in, and it's like, okay, it's not quite the same on the outside as it is on the inside. It looked really interesting, it's enticed me in, but actually it doesn't follow through on what we've done. Or maybe you've seen an advert, someone spent a lot of money advertising to get you to come to their shop, and you go there and you get outside and the shop window is actually not very appealing. The experience is different. It's a letdown. It's just a bit like that with the process. You've got to get everything right and everything flowing, because ultimately the process is we need traffic. That is point number one. But it's no use just having traffic if that traffic lands on your site, if its first experience with you doesn't follow through. So maybe, I see typically people will maybe get the traffic, they'll have the nice front page on their website, the graphics will all be nice, but actually it doesn't follow through, it doesn't flow properly, it's incongruent, the messages aren't aligned with what your client needs to hear, you haven't understood your ideal customer, all of these kind of things. You can't be incongruent, because ultimately, yes, you need to get traffic, but it's no good just having traffic. Like I said, it's no good walking on the high street, seeing that amazing shop front, and you go in and it's not going to convert into everything. So what does this really mean for you? What do you need to do? You need to understand that it is a process, that you do need a system. You need to get every part of that process and system right. Otherwise, you'll have leakages, which leakages will be your money, your marketing budget going down, and it will be clients not going through the process. You either won't get them or they'll drop out along the way. You've got to have a consistent process that flows. And quite simply, that's what I learned. It took me a long time to learn it, But basically it is, you have to start off by getting everything in place right. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you need to have a clear picture of what is your brand, what is your ideal client, what is your messaging. You need to get your website in place. You need to get all those other things in place that you need to have. And yes, you need to spend money on advertising as you go along. That is useful. But unless you've got all your housekeeping in place, so remember those things I talked about Google looking for, unless you've got your SEO in place, unless you've got your backlinks right, unless you've got the right number and level of citations in place, unless you've got content which is congruent, all of those things, unless they're in place, you're going to lose people. It's not going to follow through into business. So, my advice to you, understand it's a system, recognise you can't short circuit that system, you need to get everything right, and if you're interested in this, you can look at my website, which is Help for Hypnotherapists, where we actually talk about the process of the whole process, the whole system that you need to go through, getting your brand right, your offering right, your outreach, i.e. your marketing right, in that order. It's no good going for your marketing before you've got those things right. Get your sales conversation right, and get all of the tech in place that you need. Unless you've got all of that working, you really are going to have a leaky bucket. Okay, that's a good way to think about it. So my advice to you is to have a marketing budget, but invest that budget in the things that really make a difference. Invest in the organic things that will make you credible with Google first. So when Google comes to search for you, it sees that you have got, it understands what you do. Your keywords, your backlinks, your content are congruent, are aligned, so it's really clear of who you are and what you do. Invest in getting those backlinks and those credentials that raise your authority. Invest in getting the reviews. Invest in doing things that are going to make Google take you seriously. So I hope you found that useful. I'm really happy to have answer any questions around this, and also if people are interested, pop something down below and we can do a live on this so we can actually discuss this in more detail. So hope that's been interesting, and I'll see you soon.